A quick way to make you sound more hip, harmonically speaking, is by using substitutions. So, you know, in classical theory, 5 goes to 1. That's the basic sound that you're looking for. Jazz just adds some notes to that. So like, you know, instead of just going like this, all of a sudden I can have this, you know, this voice leading. It's not like you don't see that in classical music, but the idea is that the voice leading gets more complex and more harmonically rich as you move further into the jazz idiom. So I could even throw more extensions on it. I can have that sound or an altered sound. And so we want to imitate this with our left hand when playing stride. You know, on the turnaround for a blues, a 3-6-2-5-1 back up to the top. You can play substitutions. So D and A flat share a tritone. So since that's the case, I know that I can use A flat sometimes as a stand-in for D. And it just happens to be a half step above the target note. So a tritone substitution is, you know, a half step above the fifth of whatever the note you're trying to land on. So in this case, I will be using D to get to G. And so instead of playing D to get to G, I will play A flat, because remember, A flat is D's tritone substitution. And it sounds hip, and it's also not that difficult. Like, you know, it's much easier to reach a half step above the note, the target note, than a fifth above it. So I could play on a 3-6-2-5-1 for a blues, you know. Just keeping the chord simple, I want to show you the tritone substitutions that I choose when I go down the keyboard. So I would 3-6, 2, 5. So what if I subbed all those chords, you know? So if I subbed all of them, my 3 would, instead of being A, would be E flat, because A and E flat share tritone. So I could play E flat up to A flat. A flat is D's tritone substitution, down to D flat, which is G's tritone substitution, and then down to G flat, which is C's tritone substitution. And it sounds really complex, but you know, it's just a different way to play the same chords. You know, that's the standard way, and ideally you don't want to either only play the standard way or only substitute every single chord. You know, you want to invert it sometimes. Sometimes play diatonic chords, other times play tritone substitutions. So I could play it's hard to switch in and out, but once you get good at that, you can sound hip instantly. So A to D to G to C, all the way back to F. And you can take it slow on the left hand, you know. Substitution, another substitution, another substitution, another substitution. Sub, sub, sub. Actually, just kidding. Sub, sub, man. Or you can think about it like that, you know, as a walking technique, like with each chord, with each pa, to make the note that you're going to, approach that by a note a half step above. So every single time, you know, I don't think it would sound that corny if you did. Maybe that is corny, but you get the idea, you know, just approach the target note with a note a half step above it. And the chord that you play after playing that note a half step above should be a seventh chord, a chord that, you know, a chord that gets you where you want to go harmonically speaking. So you'll often hear me play tritone substitutions in the left hand. One way to strengthen up your improvisation very fast too is learn the blues, play the blues. The way to learn it, I think, is, was to play it, but also to listen to it. I think that's a really big part of it. I've been speaking a lot to imitating the voice or imitating different instruments when playing the piano. Yeah, the blues, I think, is just so alluring because it taps into this vocal technique that I think we just almost inadvertently make when we feel some sort of sensation. It's like this feels like soul music for a reason. It's just like this incremental movement between notes. That's like the soul element that you can add to ragtime playing. I mean, people superimpose blues on like every form at this point, but there's a reason why that is. You can draw a line, I think, between the half step motion and the flat fifth in the blues scale, a line from that all the way to the field hollers, I think, of the plantation. And there's something something very deep about that. So adding that language to your ragtime playing will help it sound, more early American as well as like more hip, but nothing is more hip through the years, through the centuries, I guess, than blues. So yeah, the more blues you can get into your ragtime playing, the more hip you'll sound. One cool thing that you can do with stride piano, it's like a jazz piano hack. You don't actually need to play that much of the melody. Even when you take a solo, you don't need to play that much of a melodic solo, because the left hand is so active that oftentimes stride players get away with just playing chords, It's hard to play all these different melodic ideas all the way up the keyboard while the left hand is doing its thing. So you could just limit yourself to chords. They sound equally hip. The New Orleans technique, you can, play it like James Booker and anticipate the note that comes next to give the music a more of an offbeat, syncopated feel, and all of a sudden you'll have more melodic ideas, even because you want to complement what's happening in the left hand, which is really what's happening with the time, and you'll be able to take it to different places. Just remembering those concepts we talk about with ragtime, random notes. So long as the time is happening, everything else is just like, ornamentation. So, you can add these different things in, like tritone substitutions, 2/5 to the 4 or whatever target chord you are trying to hit. Different techniques that you would see ordinarily in jazz music, but play it like stride piano, but slowly at first. 2/5 to the 4, to the one, or you can use, just chords to take a solo and get better at that and eventually play melodic solos. But the idea is that as long as you keep the time and, maybe at least 95% of the time you hint at the harmony that's happening in the piece, then you really be on your way to sounding like James P. Johnson in no time. So I hope that these techniques over, a simple blues can help you take stride fundamentals and apply them to different jazz contexts, like playing ballads or playing standards, or even playing the blues. A very cool stylistic part of stride playing is playing tenths. This makes the playing sound a lot more grand and bigger, and there's a reason why that is. One cool thing about it is the pinky is playing a melody, and you should treat it like that. So the goal is to move, generally speaking, in stepwise motion whenever you want to play, whenever you want to walk tenths. The point of walking it is grabbing a tenth, the target note, the root note, and a tenth above that. And then you move it around to the desired chord. But players in New York will play like that. Fats Waller, James P. Johnson would do that as a ballad technique, and they were pretty good players, so they could do it going really fast too. But the goal was to get a bigger sound out of the piano and have a counterpoint melody almost to the melody that's happening in the right hand. So work on tenths. One way that I used to practice working on tenths chromatically. The better you get with that, the better you'll get at using it in real musical contexts. So, walking tenths can even be useful in a ragtime context, and automatically that can change ragtime sounding music into stride sounding music. Yeah, you could just apply those same walking tenth techniques to ragtime tunes like the Maple Leaf Rag. So again, instead of just root fifth, what if I play it? That'll change the music and, make your left hand a little bit more harmonically interesting, and just break up this oompa, 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 oompa to give a different character to the music. The diminished chord can help you break up the harmonic monotony in a different way. So a lot of times, since this music is just 1-5, 1-5, it can sound pretty static. One way you can break that up is by hinting at the diminished chord of the chord that you're playing. So if I'm playing E flat, I will play an E flat diminished, just quickly though. So instead of, I will play. And that just adds a little bit of, it adds this early American sound actually. It's like before they were playing all of these cool big chords, they would play diminished chords and use them as passing tones and use them in various harmonic contexts to add a different layer of harmonic interestingness to the music. I like to use that sometimes. It's very useful. It's very helpful. Or you could even, play around with the chord a half step below. I really like this G over A flat sound. Or you could play a chord a half step below the chord of interest. So I really like this G over A flat sound. That's another sort of hip way that can elevate your playing almost. It's like instead of just playing in a static way over and over again on one chord, to break up that, harmonic loop, you could just add in these exotic chords, like the diminished chord, like a chord a half step below, and it'll turn you from zero to hero fast. So when thinking about a ragtime or a stride intro, you can approach this a couple of different ways. You can come into the tune as though you were just leaving out of it, like you can play 3, 6, 2, 5, 1 all the way back up to the top, and then bring in the melody in this grandiose way. But I think a more stylistic thing that stride players will do, and if you steal this, you'll sound immediately like Fats Waller. You can start on the one chord, and then you move down a half step below that. And then give us a 2-5 back into the 1, and then start on the top of the tune. But that's, again, this half step below the home key is a very important move in the stride idiom. It's got this otherworldly film score-esque sound that functions well when you're trying to get back to the 2. And so I think automatically that'll help you with ragtime or stride intros, as well as, ballad playing. You can impose that half step down in so many places. Hand independence. It's almost like you have to have 2 brains or come to grow 2 brains. Like the right hand that's a really popular ragtime device. You hear that a lot. So it's really banjoistic, and it's also like drumming. Really, like there's this independence on one hand between the fingers, and then the same thing with the left hand, but independence between all the fingers and both hands at the same time. So how you can think about that is find which notes sync up with which other notes and play those together. And that might be a challenge in ragtime because it's so syncopated, it's so out of sync that it's hard to catch the moments of synchronicity between the hands. And the more you can catch those moments where the hands sync up, the better you can get at playing the moments where the hands don't sync up. Or you could just eliminate you can eliminate the inner melody and just play the clave rhythm. Don't spend exactly all your time feeling what's happening in the right hand and feeling what's happening in the left hand. You just gotta feel the music. Like the music is its own thing. You can't just focus on one hand with the exclusion of the other, or vice versa, though sometimes you might be tempted to because the left hand seems like it requires so much attention, jumping all over the place. But you really just have to feel the music and trust that your fingers will hit the right notes and your brain will properly juxtapose the right and left hand. Because the most important part of the music, it's got time in the name. The most important part of the music, I think, is keeping the time. So honestly, I think even if you hit wrong notes, if you keep the rhythm, the integrity of the music is not compromised. So yeah, play in sync as much as you can, and the better you get at playing in sync, the better you'll become at playing with syncopation. Playing fast. You shouldn't try to play fast until you've mastered everything that I talked about before. Playing fast is sometimes easier than it sounds and sometimes way harder than it sounds. It just depends on what kind of strides you want to play. Like, you might be able to get away with playing different notes that aren't that far apart from each other and keeping up this oompa, 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 oompa stride feel. Like, you could jump just a fourth down and still get the stride effect, but it becomes much harder. And obviously that was hard. That was just hard to play then, but to jump, it becomes much harder to jump several octaves away. What you want to do is stay loose and practice all of this as slow as possible with the metronome before you try to speed up, because, you know, as important as I said keeping time was, it also is important to at least try to hit the right notes. And honestly, I think the only way you can do that is by going slow and getting a sense of the piano. One thing that might help you figure out where the notes are so that you can hit them as fast as possible is by playing them as octaves. Your brain will remember where your pinky goes so long as it knows where an octave up is, which is where your thumb will go. And if you play that enough times, any given note, enough times as an octave, you can focus on your thumb, which is easier to see than your pinky when you're looking at the centermost part of the piano. And once you aim your thumb at the note that you want to hit, an octave up, you'll be able to hit that note an octave down in the pinky. And that's like a cheat code to ragtime. So like, and I just realized actually right now that I do that when I play. I'm not exactly thinking about where my pinky is going. I just trust that it's an octave apart from where my thumb is. And I'm right, I think like 93% of the time. And one way to practice that is like this. Like, that's almost easier than trying to hit it with just my pinky. I can hit it with just my pinky, but honestly, that's because I've practiced it this way. So practice with octaves. You know, and you get a bigger sound if you play it with octaves too. So, you know, I hope that's helpful with playing fast. Okay, so I was telling you before how ragtime is not necessarily jazz music or not exactly classical music, but I think it's important to approach ragtime piano like a classical pianist approaches classical piano. And that is to say that the music sometimes requires you to do some virtuosic things. You know, maybe it's not as hard as a Chopin etude, but it's not exactly simple. And a lot of people describe syncopation as the hardest part about playing ragtime. Right now, I want to talk to you about sitting at the piano with comfort, but also with intention. You want to be like firm enough to play the notes with conviction and really get a good sound out of the instrument, but at the same time loose enough and chill enough that you don't overexert yourself or hurt yourself. You could actually get injured playing too tightly. A big part of playing loose is in the wrists, as well as in the body, but I'll get to that after. But the wrists should be... The wrist should be almost completely at ease, with the small exception of what you need to, you know, press the note. But it really is almost like I'm throwing my hand at the keys and just trusting that it'll hit the right one. And the challenge, I don't think, is making your wrist loose. I think the challenge for a lot of people is actually having a loose wrist at the same time as hitting the right notes. You know, a lot of people think that they'll sacrifice accuracy for looseness, and maybe that's true. But you know, the way out of that is just practicing. But even in practice, you want to make sure you are as loose as possible, because 4 hours practicing this music tensely will probably mean that you can't practice 4 hours again in the future. So you got to take a load off, take a breather, and just be present with the instrument, and know that it's just music. Remind yourself that when you want to tense up. Okay, the next part, which I think is important, and I think it really is almost the same as the first part, you want to make sure that you aim at the keys. Like another difficulty with ragtime, and I heard this from people who talked to me about it, and I also experienced it myself. But people say that it's hard to know which note that you are going to hit whenever you make a stride. Like, how can you be confident that you'll hit the right note? And it's just like anything else. The more you do it, the better you become at it, and you have to take it slow at first. But the way that I think about this is I'm aiming at the note. I see it some seconds before I actually play it. The moment that I play it, I'm already thinking about the note that comes next. But I'm glancing over it just quickly enough to get a sense of what's coming next, but I'm not staring at it so as to miss what's coming up. I'll check for a note. If I know that I'm going down to that E flat, I'll look at it real quick and then I'll shoot my eyes right back up to the chord that I have to hit. And the better you get at this, rapid eye movement almost, the better you'll become at hitting the right notes in the right times.